Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
Hey, g'day. How are you today? My name is Justin Phillips. I welcome you all to the call. Thanks for those that are still logging in or catching us up on the Facebook Live. It would seem that Zoom keeps changing the rules on us, and now we are on a Zoom room instead of a webinar format. So our apologies for that, but it's all good. We're still here, and we're still going to hear and have a great discussion with the amazing Jost Sauer. So, as I said, my name is Justin Phillips. I am here on beautiful Bribie Island and streaming in from Southeast Queensland, Australia. And my life has been pretty interesting as far as health and well-being goes. And I'm on a journey to help people and empower people. My wife and I are very passionate about empowering people with health and prosperity and happiness and sharing some of the amazing life experiences that we've learnt throughout our life. And one of those is a phenomenal person, aka the lifestyle medicine man, and that's our very special guest, Jost Sauer. Before we get started, just ask you not to, for your cooperation, please do not record the call, not to distribute it to mass media, social media sites, that sort of stuff. However, we are recording the call, and links will be sent out for those that registered for the call, as well as those that renew at Redox Facebook group. We are Facebook living into that as we speak. So yeah, I have muted you all. Please keep your microphones on mute because this is a Zoom room, not a webinar format. My apologies. But yes, so we do encourage you to put some questions and comments in the chat box. It's always great to hear from you guys and what you're thinking about our topic that we're talking about, and questions that you have, and even potential topics that you want to talk about from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective. So let me introduce our amazing guest. So Jost Sauer, aka the lifestyle medicine man, born in 1958 in Germany. Jost has a Bachelor in Health Science and Acupuncture, and diplomas in Oriental Massage certificates, structural balancing, sports injury management, all that sort of stuff. He started working as a therapist in 1991, and I had the great pleasure of meeting him when he was supervising the acupuncture student clinic at the Australian College of Natural Medicine, where I did a couple of years study as well. So he qualified as a doctor of Chinese medicine and lectured in Chinese medicine for 10 years. And Jost has owned and founded and operated health centers and worked with international celebrity clients all over the place. He's quite a character. We love having our chats with Jost. His health and fitness has always been a passion, and Jost's background includes competitive skiing, that's snow skiing at the national level, bodybuilding, triathlons, Ironman training. But when he discovered Kung Fu and Tai Chi, he realized that fitness is only part of the equation and vitality is the other. And this led him to decades more research into how to live and how to use nutritional supplements, and optimal diet, therapeutic exercise, weightlifting, martial arts, meditation, Tai Chi, yoga to make you feel good. When Jost added in the 24-hour movement of Qi, the traditional Chinese medicine body clock, which connects day-to-day activities and our natural cycles, he developed his Qi Cycle Lifestyle Medicine program. And this is the ultimate in lifestyle medicine. It is founded on thousands of years of Chinese medicine, and with over 30 years of Jost's academic research and practical observations from living it. So Jost is quite a dynamic and inspiring speaker. He's an author of many books. We'll put the links to his websites down below further in the call, where you can get hold of yourself with some of those books and some of the free resources. And once again, it is with great pleasure I welcome the amazing Jost Sauer to the call. Thanks for joining us, Jost.
yes, good morning, Justin.
Can you hear us? Oh, good. All right, how's your volume going?
Yeah, my volume is fine. Can you hear me?
Yep, sound check's good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got an interesting conversation today, one that many people experience. I hear a lot of people talk about brain fog, a lot of concern about dementia as a rising epidemic in chronic disease. So yeah, can't wait to hear what you have got to share with us today about brain fog from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. What nuggets of gold do you have?
Yes, okay. So obviously that's a huge issue. That's now, okay, dementia always has been part of life. It's just like we suddenly observing an early onset dementia, which we would refer to the symptoms as brain fog, difficulty thinking, clarity of thought, and in particular, this blanking out, like losing the thread of the sentence. So you're talking to someone and halfway through, shit, what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And that can in particular happen when you're under stress. For example, public speaking, and just in the middle of the sentence, oh my God, well, what I was trying to, what's the thread I'm following through here? Or it comes when you're talking to people and suddenly, bang, you don't know what you talk about it. So dementia as such in the Western medicine hasn't really been involved with research that long. And Alzheimer's disease, which is one of the diseases of under dementia, it's only 100 years old, and it was discovered by this German doctor. Chinese medicine, on the other side, has been researching dementia for almost 2,000 years. So we have a medicine here that has been observing these principles of dementia for a very, very long time. So we're looking at 2,000 years of application, observation, clinical changes, and also results. So the Chinese have lots to say in this regard, yeah. And as we're now moving into a zone where more and more people expressing mental difficulties, in particular if it's affiliated with mental health, we've got to really look into, okay, we've got to draw on ancient philosophies and medicines here, because there is incredible advice available. Whereas obviously in the West, people seem to be subject to the decline of the mental function as part of aging. In Chinese medicine, it's lifestyle. So lifestyle always comes down to, in Chinese medicine, as a prime cure for just almost anything. Yeah, I mean, if you get hit by a lightning storm, okay, that's not, regardless of the lifestyle, you will die. But everything else.
I know a guy, he got struck 3 times in one storm and he survived. He's a lucky guy.
Yeah. A lottery ticket if you have that sort of luck.
Yeah. But he has a fantastic lifestyle. He surfs and he eats really well. He's got a great lifestyle and he's super healthy. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So brain fog in particular comes up lots lately. And I very rarely treat a client in clinic which to a certain degree is not experiencing brain fog. And the age of people experiencing brain fog now, we're looking at mid-30s, even to the late 20s. So that's obviously, we never had that before. And so brain fog and blanking out is actually a symptom progression that eventually will develop into dementia. So you do have a precursor. Yes, there are signs and symptoms that we need to be aware of it. I need to say that I have personal experiences with all of them, like with blanking out, because in the good old days, I explored life from the illegal aspect and took far too many amphetamines, cocaine, and all kind of like lovely substances. And then in my early 20s, I had those sort of early onset symptoms.
Look, you've got to experience these things in order to appreciate them and to be able to heal others and help them, right? It's like part of life.
Yeah. I was a social worker in those days, and I had to address group meetings, and I started to lose the thread of the sentence on a regular basis.
Yeah, wow.
And it's not a good idea. And to continue the lifestyle I was doing in those days by no sleep and lots of amphetamines.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to experience what it feels like. And when I got into Chinese medicine and the relevant lifestyle, all that disappeared. I don't have that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how quick that was regulated. Whereas at some stage I thought it's going to be with me for life.
Yeah, and that's pretty scary. I've had that thought too.
Yeah, that's what I see with lots of the clients. The clients who have this sort of blanking out think it's with them for life. Yeah. They think it's like something's wrong. And obviously in Chinese medicine, we need to understand that, hang on, there's more to it. And the fact is that there's actually an underlying organ function. Yes. So in Chinese medicine, the body is the hardware for the mind to function. So like you've got the mind, which is the software, And then you got the hardware, which is the organ. So the organ, if the organ functions effectively, the software will run beautifully. So you can have the best software in the world, but if the hardware is faulty, it doesn't matter. It doesn't help to take the software to a technician and say, look, can you look at my software?
Yeah.
You see, this is where Chinese medicine would look at mental health issues and say, it's software. Mental health, don't take it as a software technician. It most likely is hardware issue. And having worked with so many people in my times, tens of thousands of people who had affiliation with mental health, I've seen how quickly they change by focusing on fixing up the hardware. Because once you fix the hardware, the software was fine all along. There was nothing wrong with the software. There was nothing wrong. It's just like there was a few delays in the circuit board. And so that's why the Zoom didn't work, because there was something not right with the hardware.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the more complex life gets, the more intense everything gets, the more profound and the more we need to think, the more our mind and brain is under stress and pressure. Obviously, the higher the need for the hardware to be up to date. So, for example, if you wouldn't update your iPhone since the first iPhone came out, iPhone 2, or say iPhone 3, you would be left behind. You would have brain fog all the time. You would blank out at every call.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be on this call.
Nothing would work, and you would all the time think, what's wrong with my phone? What's wrong with me? And of course, we got iPhone 11 by now. There have been a lot of upgrades, and the upgrades and updates are necessary in order to keep up with the software development, keep up with the speed. I mean, look, the first iPhone had like 50 megabytes. That was it. I mean, now you can't get an iPhone without 125 gigabytes of information.
Yeah.
So data storage, obviously, that's a lot of data storage. And that what in the body is the same. Like we are exposed to so much information, information overload syndrome, IOS, is another precursor for blanking out and early onset dementia. And that's far too much information. But the information, the capacity of the information and the number of the information is not so much the problem according to Chinese medicine. What is the problem is how you're able to store the information. How efficient are you able to store the information? Because if you are able to store the information, you are fully functional. So that's obviously what your computers do. If they are able to store information, that means if they are able to store memory and can instantly call up the memory, everything's working fine. That's the same thing with dementia, brain fog, blanking out, the early stages onset of dementia, that the memory that is stored can't be called up. Rapid access memory. So you could say early onset dementia is a REM problem. Rapid access memory. The memory is not active, is not accessed in an instant way. And that means what you get on the screen is just blanking out. You get nothing.
Yeah.
The memory is still there. It's just not coming to the screen. Yeah. And so this is the same thing with dementia, with blanking out, with brain fog. The memory is still available. It's still there, but the access to the memory is inhibited. Yeah. Or the memory is leaking. That's another thing. So that means the storage device is not effective. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we understand that by computer and hardware and software configurations. So we've got to use the same understanding when we look at the body. And when it comes to memory storage, the REM, we talk about kidney. When we talk about the access of the memory, we talk about spleen. When we talk about the rapid access, instant available flow of information, we talk liver and lung. So the 4 organs involved in dementia and blanking out and losing the thread of the sentence and etc. are kidney, spleen, liver, and lung. So this is the hardware we got to upgrade all the time. So as we now moving into a lifestyle where people constantly spend more time sitting down, nodding and rushing around and skipping breakfast and all kind of other stuff, kidney, spleen, lung, liver are neglected. And because that hardware, which is essential for storing the memory, for compressing the memory, for having the ability to have instant access to that memory and make it rapidly accessible to the mind, all that is now inhibited due to the neglection of those organs. Mm-hmm. So what I want to talk about today are the 3 categories of dementia that are all involved with progressions, with early onset towards right up to the final stage where it is the senile dementia. And it's put them in 3 categories, and I'm going to go through it first. First is kidney and blood deficiency. The next one is pent up phlegm, like pent up anger, but this time pent up phlegm. And the third one is retarded blood circulation, retarded blood circulation. So these are the 3 categories we need to look into. What is actually this early stage development, and then the progression towards the final stage, the senile dementia. So you can't have senile dementia without having the initial progression. Nothing happened suddenly. In Chinese medicine, everything starts slowly. That's why we need to live a lifestyle where the symptoms come forward every day, so we can rectify the symptom before it gets suppressed and moves into the unconscious, and then keeps evolving itself till it suddenly surfaces again, gets suppressed, goes down again, keeps developing, and eventually it surfaces where it can't be ignored. Yeah. That's why I'm always telling everyone, you got to live the Qi cycle, because the Qi cycle is the constant observation of your symptoms. Like the universe has given us everything what we need in order to be healthy and happy and fully functional for the rest of our life, the entire life. In Chinese medicine, the aim is to be productive and happy and healthy all your life. And then towards the end, I think I've done enough in the physical, I move on. Boom, that's it. So, yeah, not this sort of like a slow decline that we see in the Western world. Chinese medicine teaches us not to do that. Chinese medicine teaches us all the way progression and then boom, move on. Yeah. So not this slow decline.
I got some cool stats on that actually. So in the Western world, the stats in the Western world are when people die in their 90s, they have only 1 year of morbidity, which is high care and challenges, right? When they die in their 80s, it's 3 years. And when they die in their 70s, it's 5 years. So it's 5 years of pain and suffering, right? So that totally agrees with what you're saying. Live a good life and then drop off quick.
Slow decline, the slow decline in aging. And you see, this is where I observed, I have personal experiences with dementia because my mother died of Alzheimer's disease while I was already setting up a clinic. So I actually have observed the decline. And my father died of Parkinson's disease, but I saw both of my parents for about 65, slow decline over 20 years into agony. And all the friends, slow decline. But that is not how we're supposed to live, because Chinese medicine has got these 2,000 years of observation and application based on the clinical observation for it to go the exact opposite. It's a trajectory towards where your final day becomes the peak. And then, boom, you go. Not sort of like 60 and then, 20 years decline. That is the issue. And when we talk about dementia, that's exactly the problem, this slow decline, this agonizing decline. And that's the result of having not observed the symptom progression at the early stages. like so many people I deal with these days, observe the symptoms but ignore the symptoms.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, they're not
Yes,
listening to the messages. Yeah,
it's incredible how many people I work with would just get the symptoms on a regular basis. And I say, look, this is an early onset. You got to be aware. Like the idea is to control this, regulate the symptom right now. That means you are always in a state of acute control, acute regulation. That means it will never get chronic.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I think people don't actually know what that means, lifestyle medicine. It's about like constant self-observation, self-awareness. To me, it's a bit of like a game, you know, the game of life. It's kind of, that's why I wore this shirt, not only because of the Dementia Stranger, but it's also a big game, right? And anyone that knows me that's on the call, that if you put in the messenger group, like, why did I actually reel this? What am I referring to with this shirt, right? Because they're the ones that know me well. You know, it's about living in a way where you are in control and empowerment. This is exactly what I said, how we're passionate about empowering people with their health. Traditional Chinese medicine lifestyle and what you're teaching is about for each person to be their own physician, their own doctor, like their own master of their health. Maybe I shouldn't use those words, but they're master of their health. And it's like a daily, like hour to hour, minute to minute thing.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
We are constantly, we need to be observing ourselves all the time. The moment we give in to it, deterioration, decline takes over. It's Chinese medicine understood from the beginning that life is yin and yang. That means yin and yang work together. Yin is the ability to move forward in the term of like conserving ourselves and becoming our true self. But yin depends on yang for the advance and act, but yang is destructive, it's destruction. So for every gain in terms of establishing our true self, we have an equal experience of destruction. So if we are fully aware about the yang constantly destroying us, but at the same time we establishing our true self, then we are in harmony all the time. So the moment we giving into this and letting go, and we ignore the yang and just focusing purely on living according to what we think is right, but ignoring the laws underlying that regulates yin and yang, then the yang will cause havoc and destruction. And then over time, it will create damages. And then they initially surface as a minor symptom. If we suppress it, it goes down again, it becomes a major symptom. Yeah. And so if
people get stuck because they're not aware of this, they don't have that consciousness of the game, and they get stuck in terror.
Yes. And obviously what you're doing in that moment, you're giving away your power to others who tell you that they know why you feel like that. And if you take this, or if you follow my advice, you will feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
or this magic pill. This magic pill will solve everything, right? Oh yeah, that's how it works.
Chinese medicine is all focused on, that's all along has been the philosophy, to become independent, so that you are true, your own person. Yeah. And in order to have that in place, we need to understand that what we required is to have the observational skill. But when it comes to dementia, we got to look at that there are three parts of the body that need to be observed. And first of all, the kidney and blood deficiency is directly involved with the loss of memory. So the kidney and you could say if the kidney is functioning, you don't have loss of memory. So everything now evolves around how can you bring up the kidney? Yeah. Can you hear me, Justin?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, you're back again. Okay.
Yeah.
Because suddenly everything blanked out while I was talking about
it's a dementia moment. Yeah, no, I'm actually taking notes. I'm loving it. It's good. So how do we build up the kidney?
Okay, so that's obviously the first thing in Chinese medicine. We always nourish the kidney, and the kidney is the most important organ to protect. So therefore, we take lots of Chinese herbs. Chinese herbs are crucial in order to make the kidneys function effectively. And we're talking like, but by the end of the talk, I give some direct formulas what to take. Yeah, but the Chinese herbs, in Chinese medicine, Chinese herbs are superior to food. So in Chinese medicine, we always take herbs in order to build the organs, because if the organ functions effectively, it will always control the symptom. It will heal the symptom. Yeah. Whereas with food, it's very tricky, as we talked about last time. It's very tricky because every food has got a counterpart, far too much destruction. Regardless of how good the food is, it will always have something that will destroy you. With the herbs, it is very specific, and they are always like the Rehmannia 8 formula, for example. It's got 8 ingredients. Every time they put an ingredient in the formula, it enhances the organ, but then it will destroy something. But then the second ingredient takes care of that destruction, and the third ingredient takes care of the second ingredient, and the fourth, and so on. By the time it comes to the 8th ingredient, it back at the beginning, you've got a cycle. Very smart. Whoever came up with that idea, very, very, very smart.
Okay.
That's why number 8 is a power number in Chinese medicine. Yeah, it's a power number.
Yeah.
And 8 by 8 is 64, and you got 64 combinations of acids and bases than DNA. So the whole DNA is based on 8. 8 by 8 is 64. The whole life is based on 8. And if you turn 8 horizontal, you got infinity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Chinese medicine, first of all, Chinese medicine never isolates herbs. It always has a combination of herbs. So ginseng is a very important herb to nourish the kidneys. But if you take ginseng in an isolated form, it will not do the benefit as such. So the ginseng, the ren-shen, needs to be with the electrolytes. The electrolytes need to be with the rhizomes. The rhizomes need to be with ba shu in order to get a cycle that acts on each other in order to come back to the beginning, so you have a cycle. So when the herbs work, it doesn't bog itself down in one absolute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why in the Western belief, like what I hear all the time is, I hear this all the time when I talk about herbs. The first thing what they say is, oh, you can't take herbs forever. It's only for a little while and then you're fine again. But that's exactly the opposite in Chinese medicine. Like in Chinese medicine, we take herbs all the time. It's a bit like saying you only need to eat good food for a few weeks and then you can go back to McDonald's. Yeah. Yeah, obviously that doesn't work. Yeah. So that's why we're going to be aware. It's a constant regulation. So we need to understand what to give the body all the time. Mm-hmm. The more you do this, the more you understand. You need the initial guidance. After a while, you just really understand. So the next thing with kidney is obviously sufficient sleep. The kidney relies on the nourishing sleep. So if it has a deep nourishing sleep, it will recuperate itself, because the kidney is the water organ, it's the water element. And the fluids, the water passages throughout the night and doing the process of sleep will actually rejuvenate the kidneys. So, and the best time to go, the absolutely best time for sleep is between 9:30 and say 9 till 5 in that time. Because what happens is that 9 o'clock, the energy enters the Senjiao, and the Senjiao is the regulating of your fluids and water passages. And these are the fluids which is, look at your motherboard, the electric circuits. It makes sure that there's all the delays and relays all working effectively. Yeah. Because Senjiao, the triple heater, is an organ function that we in the West can't get our head around it. It doesn't make any sense. But in Chinese medicine, it's an energetic function. It's an energy organ, and it regulates. It's like a circuit of a motherboard. So it's so it makes sure that everything's working fine. So that means if there is a problem with the delay or the plumbing or the pipes or the circuits, during the sleep, it will actually regulate and fix that. So as the fluids then be moved, all throughout the body during sleep, the kidney will obviously refilter itself, and it therefore will now be refreshed. If the kidney can't refilter itself and is not refreshed, next day you wake up and you're not up to date. You feel like you're not with it. That's a classic example of when the kidney hasn't really went through the process of completely cleansing itself, the filtering process, which is in Chinese medicine a function of the Sanjiao. So what that means is the sleep is essential for the circuit board all throughout the body to work so that the kidney can store the memory. Yeah, and because that's what water is. It's a storage, and they talked about it last time. The water, the storage, the factor. The storage factor is where your memory can get stored. If the circuit throughout the night is not well built and repaired, that means memory can't be stored effectively. So when you wake up next day, it feels like there's something lacking between the pixels of the rapid access memory and towards your mind. And that's the brain fog. Now you're feeling foggy.
Yeah. Even in Western science, they've proven that in deep REM sleep, the neurons, the neural synapses actually increase in size, and that allows more cerebral spinal fluid to get through. And yeah, so the fluid of the brain and the spinal cord is circulated at night. Like that's in anatomy and physiology as well. So no surprise there. The Chinese had it right.
And the next thing is for what kidney requires is the transcendence, constantly sinking in, because it's water. Water needs to sink. If water sinks and if the water settles, the pool isn't muddy. If water doesn't settle, you have a muddy pool. Yeah. So when we talk about a brain fog, it's a bit like looking at a turbid water in a pool rather than clear water. Yeah. So brain fog is like, in that regard, it's clear water versus turbid water. So obviously the first thing what you need to do in order to clean the pool is to make the water settle. So settling is essential for the kidney function. So that means as the water settles, the kidneys get filtered. The kidney will return to its original function. It will be able to push all the energies throughout the body because the kidney stores the yuan qi, which is the original qi. Now it moves it all throughout the body. That means you don't have brain fog. If the water is not settled, that means it's turbid water. Instead, you have brain fog when you wake up. So you're not with it, yeah? So what is the first thing what people do? Cup of coffee. Coffee will not clear the turbid water. Coffee aggravates the water. It actually puts more toxins in. So Chinese medicine says coffee is good, but drink coffee after the water has settled first. Don't drink water when it's turbid. Yeah? Chinese medicine never says don't do this, don't do that. It always says when to take it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Chinese medicine. It does not say this is bad or this is good, this is right or this is wrong. It says when to take it. That means you suddenly have a healthy relationship to it rather than have a fundamental dogmatic relationship to substances.
Yeah, and there's a time for everything.
Yeah, if you take coffee, if they are to move through a turbid mind, or when the water is not clear, you aggravate the situation. Yeah. So you push yang through turbid, but what it means is you put more yang in the pool, and you stir the mud more. The mud gets more stirred, and then within 4 hours, it's even more blank mind, even more brain foggy, and then by the afternoon even more, and then you need more. You need other substance in order to push through. But what also happens if the water gets turbid, we can cause all kinds of anxiety patterns, because when we don't, it's like swimming in the ocean and the visibility is 20 centimeter and there's shadows everywhere. In the mind, you think it's just you're surrounded by sharks.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Whereas if the visibility is 30 meter or 40, 50 meter or even more, then you realize it's just a beautiful flower to look at. It's just a beautiful fish. It's awesome. But the visibility, 20 centimeter in the middle of the ocean, always causes anxiety. Yeah. So that's obviously when kidney doesn't settle, anxiety. So what happens with anxiety? Fear. It stirs up the water. Now it taxes the kidney even further. So fear not resolved and not unable to work with fear to move forward will actually cause damage to the kidney. And therefore you have a precursor for onset dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the lifestyle factors involved is to face fear, keep moving forward. Face your fear, keep moving forward. That's one of the lifestyle recommendations in Chinese medicine drawn for over 2,000 years, how to prevent dementia. Face your fears, keep moving forward. Yeah. So in order to face your fears, you need to settle the water. So what we have in these days, people live far too much involved with too many stimulations, too much this, too much that. The phones are not the problems. The computers are not the problem. Is we need to know when to stop off, when we need to switch off from the computers and from phones. So for example, 8 p.m., computers and phones need to be switched off so that so that the water can start to settle. If you go with an iPhone to bed, the water will not settle effectively. And what happens now is the circuit board can't actually repair itself effectively. And so what happens then, next morning, the water is not really clear and it's turbid. And that means that there's a high chance for having brain fog. Yeah. And then obviously coffee and bang, and the next day gets worse and worse and worse. So electronic devices always, and we want to, like 90 minutes before bedtime, they've got to be switched off. That's how long it takes. It takes about 90 minutes to 2 hours to settle the water. So people who work hard and then go to bed obviously can't sleep. Yeah, this is that's obviously one of the big problems we have now. And insomnia is now another epidemic that because of the pandemic, because people didn't work all day, then they work all night, and then they can't sleep, and the water can't settle. Yeah. And so the pandemic has caused a lifestyle which is now aggravating dementia symptoms. Yeah, that is why suddenly dementia worries on everyone's mind. Yes, because people already got the early onsets, and it's simply because of that lifestyle. And the technology is important, but we need to switch off by 8 o'clock latest. It's got to go. And what happened then is the water can settle. As the water can settle, you have the ability for the kidney to work effectively. Yeah. And so that means it's able now to do its work in order for the rapid access of memory, the storage of memory, and which means there's the cognitive fitness in other ways. Mm. And if you settle the kidneys every day, if you settle the waters every day, it's for lifelong. That's why in Chinese medicine, Qigong is so crucial. Qigong, like this Qigong posture of the stance of standing, hugging the tree, like every day for 20 minutes. When we do that posture every day for 20 minutes, what we do, we let the turbid water settle. That's what we do. That's the idea. That's why the posture of hugging the tree is regarded as the most important health practice for human beings. Because what happens while you stand in that posture with the knees slightly bent and with you and your spine straight, you focus on sinking and you let the mind sink. And as you let the mind sink and goes into your legs, everything just goes deeper. And everything goes deeper, what means the mud now settles in the water. Yeah, so it settles. And that means it's suddenly the mud's gone and the clarity comes in. So in Chinese medicine, we need to do this every day. So it's a part of it's like a restarting of the computer. if your computer plays up, what do? You restart.
Yeah. Reboot.
Reboot it. Yeah. And this posture is like a reboot. It bang, and then and after 20 minutes, you can feel the breathing gets deep, everything gets relaxed, and suddenly clarity comes in. It's like, oh, there's no visibility of 20 centimeters anymore. I do this on a regular basis when stress hits me, regardless of what happens. I just do a posture. And if it's the middle of the main street, I just don't care.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
I do it in the park, I do it in shopping centers, I do it in planes. Boom. I don't care what other people think. Yeah. That's like, if you want to live a happy life, number one is do not give a toss what other people think of you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's cool.
Follow your own truth, because everyone is following other people's ideas, so they don't know what's going on. Yeah. So that's obviously very important. I do it all the time when I'm in, after heavy meetings. I just go somewhere for 5 minutes, let the water settle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people I hear all the time, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. Yeah. Okay. Dementia, then you've got plenty of time, but then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. It's quality time.
It's not. I think I have this debate all the time with people, and I say, look, what do you want? Do you want it's just incredible results and then unable to enjoy the results? What's the point?
Exactly. But I think a lot of people don't know how to say no. They don't know how to discern, okay, well, I can't do everything in life. What are the key things I want to do in life? And do I want to do them all half-assed, or do I want to do them well? Do I want to do less things well, or just like a whole bunch of stuff half-assed? It doesn't work very well.
Progression. So we need to understand it needs to evolve over time. And so we need to understand we can only do as much as we can. But the thing is, the more you settle the mind, the more effective the kidney, the more you do your practice in order to settle the water, the more effective you become with your work. This is the interesting thing. A lot of research done on this now lately, that actually working 12 hours a day will not do much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, hasn't one of the Scandinavian countries gone to a 5-hour day?
Yeah. Lots of them adopting it more and more and more.
Yeah.
And because you actually, if you reduce the work hours, you're actually becoming more effective. However, if you reduce the work hours and spend more time binging on Netflix, you don't become more effective.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously have to devote the time into other areas of our life, and regulating the body is key number one. Yeah. So that's why, like with kidney, which stores the memory, and the kidney is able to make the memory available. That means water needs to settle. That means we get a mindfulness in our life every day. We've got to be mindful all the time. So that needs to be practiced, and that's why we need meditation. That's the meditation, the mindfulness, that will benefit the kidney. And that means the water's always settled. That means you always have a visibility of, like infinite visibility. You always see options. And because you've got visibility, you don't panic. If the water is turbid, you panic. Yeah. The more people's kidneys become deficient, the more prone they are to fear and panic. Panic is the result of there's absolutely no visibility. If you jump in the ocean and visibility is 3 centimeters, you panic because you don't know what's around you. There could be something with big teeth around you, most likely, yeah. And that's because that's where the memory goes, for the big teeth.
Yeah.
And it will bring up the worst case scenario. And that's, if we've got vision, it's beautiful, clear water, sun gets through, it's all good. We can see it, we feel safe. When the water is turbid, we don't feel safe. Yeah. If the water is blue, clear, crystal, we feel safe. So so that's obviously the first key to prevent dementia. Yeah.
I like what you said there with the meditation, and on your recommendation, I've done the TM meditation for a month now, and you said you have more options. I noticed in the very first week, not only was my sleep better, definitely, but I started to remember dreams. But most surprising to me was my creativity. I started different ideas about stuff, and that's what you're saying, more options. And that you're totally right. Like that gets you out of fear. When you have different options to move forward, you're not paralyzed.
Yeah, that's it. That's
so simple. 20 minutes twice a day changes your life.
visibility. It's a key. Visibility. Let the water settle. You have visibility. You benefit the kidney. If you go into panic and fear, you harm the kidney. Yeah. If you face your fear, keep moving forward because you got the visibility, you strengthen the kidney. So that's why the rule number one to prevent dementia is face fears, keep going. Yeah.
So cool.
Number two, the second category is pent up phlegm. That's a good one. Yeah. Pent up phlegm, it's the same as pent up anger. So there's obviously, this is a Chinese terminology put into Western words. And you won't find pent up phlegm in a Western textbook. But there is simply no other way of saying it than it's pent up. That means phlegm hasn't been transformed. Okay, phlegm is essential for everything to run smoothly. Excessive production of phlegm blocks the orifices of the heart and then leads to cardiovascular problems, obviously pulmonary obstruction syndrome, but also leads to digestive problems and bloating. So if phlegm is not treated and we ignore the message by the body, it's like suppressing anger. We're suppressing phlegm. Now it's pent up phlegm. So eventually the phlegm gets more and more compressed. And as the phlegm gets more and more compressed, it gets more and more condensed. And now it's like it goes around the delays and relays of the circuit. And now you got like a sheathing around the contacts. And now you don't have access of memory. Yeah.
Mucus and plaque and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's obviously what happens now. The brain circuit is not working. That's now obviously where the direct observation of dementia in the brain, that's where they can have the direct diagnostics with Alzheimer's disease and things like that. Obviously oxidative stress of the brain and things like that, oxidation. But in Chinese medicine, we don't focus as such on oxidation. We look at pent up phlegm as the problem. Mm-hmm. Where in Western medicine, they look at the oxidation as the problem that causes the Alzheimer. In Chinese medicine, we look at why did the oxidation happen in the first place. Mm. Chinese medicine always is like right at the core, at the beginning, rather than taking a symptom out. So if the brain tissue is oxidized, okay, we look at why is that. Yeah. And of course, taking antioxidants will have an impact, but if you don't look at the core of the problem, it will not do much. Yeah. So that's obviously pent-up phlegm is the issue. So that's once again becoming aware about your symptom development, being aware about how your spleen transforms and transports fluids. Because this is now where the spleen is involved with the developing of dementia. If the spleen is deficient and the function of the spleen is to transform fluids become phlegm. And then phlegm gets first stored in the lungs or will get stored in the orifice. And that's where it gets the initial symptom. If the symptom gets ignored by taking medication, for example, beta blockers or paracetamol or any other medications or heart pressure, heart blood, all this kind of stuff, what happens is the phlegm production is still available, but the medication puts a circuit around it, but it's still got the phlegm production.
Yeah, so, still there.
Yeah, now the phlegm gets more compressed. And eventually the medication can't do anything about it. And the phlegm just bangs, pent up. It's like pent up anger. Eventually it blows up. So a pent up phlegm means it's like you suddenly blow up, and that's dementia. Bang. It's suddenly just like bang. It's just like it blows the fuse because it's too much. It can't control or regulate it. And as a result of that is now the memory can't be accessed. Because once the fuse is blown, you can't have access to the kidneys. And now you're looking at the person in front of you, you don't know, you can't make the two things together. You can't draw on the memory. The memory is still there, but there's no access to the memory because the fuse has blown.
Yep.
So pent-up flame is a real problem.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at, pent-up flame, is we've got to look at spleen. And what regulates the spleen is muscles. Muscles control spleen, spleen control muscles. So if we have good muscular involvement, like exercise, we actually benefit the spleen. That's where exercise is crucial. That's why muscle work is important, like yoga or Tai Chi, Kung Fu, all this weight training, TRX, all this sort of like exercises that stress the muscles. The more you stress the muscles, the more you actually will allow for the transformation of the spleen to do its work. So muscle benefits the spleen, and the spleen benefits the muscle. So that's where muscle work is, muscular work is crucial, it's essential. Okay. So in Chinese medicine, the aim is you stress your body every day, regardless of how old you are, regardless of how you feel. You always stress your body. The moment you stop stressing the body is when the spleen function will be impaired. And so that's why in Chinese medicine, we exercise right up to the last moment of life. And then boom, that's it, enough of the physical, move on. Yeah. So we don't have days we don't exercise. We exercise all the time. Obviously, the Chinese are very smart in that regard, and they developed exercises that are for longevity rather than performance. And that's obviously where the incredible, powerful Tai Chi comes in, which means supreme ultimate. Tai Chi is the ultimate exercise because you stress the muscles, but you also calm the body. So you settle the water and you stress the body. So that means while you stress the body, you settle the water. That means while you move forward, you recover the body at the same time. Tai Chi is the only exercise that Harvard University has been researched over and over that actually repairs the body while it damages the body. Mm. So, but then you're actually doing more recovery than damage, so it actually builds you. And it may appear to be looking very, very simple and easy, but it's actually very difficult to do because everything that looks simple is difficult. Yeah. Yeah. But the difficult aspect of Tai Chi is actually essential for the mind, for the thinking, because the thinking, Tai Chi is not like going for a run. Tai Chi is actually, you have to really work with your mind in order to understand how every moment you just so using your mind. It's like doing a physics degree. You never get there. But because you really work on this so much with your mind, but at the same time stress your body and your hips, and as a result of that is you're benefiting the mind, the brain, the body, and the settling of the water and the ability to transform fluids. And the Chinese say human beings did not create a Tai Chi. Tai Chi was given to humans by heaven. So it doesn't come from humans. Yeah, and it's a form given to us by heaven, and heaven has come down to the humans and about 3,000 years ago and have given them the form. And since then it has developed in terms of application, but the actual form comes from from a higher realms. It doesn't come from us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so in Tai Chi we don't run. We do a lot of exercise that really are gentle on the body, but you stress the body more than if you would go for a run. Yeah, very smart, incredible. So that means you can do it every day, every morning, and every evening. So you're constantly in a state of regulating your pathways. Yeah. The next thing is that spleen settles from being centered. The more we center ourselves, and the more we benefit the spleen. So obviously, this is why the Qi cycle is coming back in again. And what I talk about in Clock On over and over. Clock On is basically a manual how to prevent dementia. So for the spleen to work effectively, it needs to reset itself every 2 hours. Every 2 hours, the Qi moves into a different organ, but now it needs an acknowledgement of that so that it can settle yourself into it and so that the spleen can actually regroup itself. And that means all throughout the day, you understand where you are, you correct yourself in accord with what the body needs, which can take only a second of acknowledgement and doing something at the right time. And like, for example, what breakfast, what to have for breakfast, what to have for lunch, what to have for dinner, how to stop, when to stop, all that benefits the spleen. So obsessive behavior patterns, excessive behavior patterns harm the spleen. So spleen is the organ affiliated with obsession. Spleen is also the organ affiliated with being calm and centered. So, so if we understand how to regroup, and that's obviously goes into knowing how to work with the day. And that means, for example, like we understand what breakfast to take. So if we have a cold breakfast, rushing, sitting, standing up, not mindful eating, you actually interfere with the process. Because what happens is that at breakfast time, you enter the yang phase to its peak time, and yang depends on lubrication. For transformation and the transportation function of the spleen to work effectively, it depends on lubrication. If the lubrication is available, the spleen function is effective and phlegm will not be stored. It can't pent up. Mm-hmm. So if lubrication is available, spleen will work like a smooth machinery. And that's why in all East, the breakfast is always like a porridge, congee. There's lots of liquid, lots of water, lots of rice milk, whatever, which is stored, which gets stored in the grain. So lots of liquid gets stored. For example, when you take oats, oats stores about 6 times the amount of liquid. And the same does rice. And so if you soak it overnight and put the liquid with it, it stores liquid in the body. So now when you have your porridge in the morning and it's nice and warm, in a settled mind, and your water is settled nicely, and you allow the peace to come in, what happens is the body observes the lubrication, the liquids, the fluids. And the stomach works in conjunction with the spleen. The stomach depends on fluids. It needs fluids to work. If the stomach works, it will benefit and support the spleen. So what happens now, if we have the nice, warm, liquidly food, what happens is we, all throughout the day, the yang phase will distribute not only the qi, but also the liquids with it. So it will lubricate itself. So what will happen now, it will lubricate the body. And what happens, the lubrication will benefit the kidney to filter itself. So next morning you can settle the mind. Yeah. So if we have dry toast for breakfast, it's not soaked in water. It has no water absorption. What happens now is we don't provide support to the yang phase because there's no liquid in the body. Now it runs onto dryness. Now the machinery has got the dryness. And as it got the dryness, what happens now? The spleen can't transform. And now what happens is fluids become stored and that can't move on. And as a result, the next stage is it obviously eventually becomes into spleen deficiency pattern, pent up phlegm. Yeah. Skipping breakfast is the same situation, so that the yang has got the yang of the body has got no support by the liquids, yeah, by the yin. And then, so then at lunchtime, the sandwich for lunch, once again, same situation, is no support for the yang. It provides no yin. So that's why we always, to prevent dementia, we always look at cooked breakfast, like a porridge. Porridge is the best. Make the porridge from all kinds of grains. Doesn't matter what grain it is, as long as it is cooked and stored overnight with absorption of the liquids, so that it can give the body the liquids throughout the next 5 hours. And then at lunchtime, same thing again, like beautiful settled meal cooked, so the liquids are available. So you're constantly supporting not only your spleen, but then also your kidney. Yeah. And this is also simple to do. We just have to get the habit around it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, develop the lifestyle. It keeps coming back to that.
This is, yeah, it always comes down to that. Then the next one, the last one, the third one is retarded blood blood circulation, retarded blood circulation. So once again, it's a Chinese term that hasn't really got a Western word. You can't put on Google retarded blood circulation. The thing, you're a retard. What it is, it's in a word, it's quite nasty. It's blood circulation that is not only impaired, it's actually retarded. It means it's actually deteriorating. It's actually a serious problem.
Yeah.
And blood circulation is regulated by your gallbladder points of the hip, around the hip, the glutes, and the core. And then stomach 36, which is on the knees, below the knees, your legs, in particular the hips and the glute, got very, very, very important points that really allow and enable for blood circulation to occur. Yeah. So sitting down compresses gallbladder 30 and GB29 and the core. As it compresses the core and gallbladder, the hip points, it then cuts off the spinal fluid from the sacrum to the spine. If you cut off the spinal fluids, what do you have? Good blood not moving to the brain, because the spinal fluid moves it up to the brain. Yeah. So for the brain to be nourished, to be watered, it depends on the blood circulation, which is activated by those points in your glutes and in your core. And then but sitting down compresses the sacrum and the spine, and now it can't move up. So why do we have all early onset dementia? Because the excessive sitting down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So excessively sitting down cuts off the blood circulation around the hip and the core, then disconnects, because in those points you have vital connection to the Du channel, which is the main meridian in the spine. And the yogis and the Tai Chi master understand that the Du channel, or the spine, the channel in the spine, is the most important channel to be nourished. If you got that right, everything else works. That's the essence and the philosophy of chiropractors. Get the spine flowing, everything else works. But in order for the spine to work, it depends on how the blood circulation points, named GB29 and GB30, the core points, REN 4, REN 3, REN 5, REN 6, all how they are activated together with the knee point. If you activate them, you will have clear information towards your sacrum. From then on, it moves all the way freely up to the mind. So if not, it's retarded blood circulation. That means you become a retard. That's basically what it means. Chinese medicine is very blunt. It says it exactly how it is. If you cut off the energy, you become dumb. That's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. So excessive sitting down is the reason why, not only the problem of obesity, but it's actually in Chinese medicine, from that perspective, sitting down is the cause of dementia. What do people do when they get the early onset? They're obviously sitting down a lot, because that's what nursing homes do and things like that. The first thing we need to do in nursing homes is they've got to be active every 2 hours. Come on, get up. Core training, hip movements, come on, movement. They're not sitting down and on their bum all day and watching television. It's the worst thing for the body. Yeah. It's the worst thing. So that's why we, in Chinese medicine, we sit down maybe for 1 hour, then we activate the hip movements again. Yeah. Obviously, this is why I always talk about the 15-minute body weight plan that I make available all the time on this webinar. I talk about it all the time, because in my 40 plus years of research in exercise, I identified the most important principles. If you only have 20 minutes, what do you really need? And the most important thing is get the blood flowing around the hip and the core, because that opens up to your sacrum, that makes the flow up the spine, you think clearly, the water settles, and you have visibility, and you see options, and you benefit spleen and kidney and the liver and lung. So obviously this is very, very, very important. This is the retarded blood circulation. That's where ASEA comes into game, because ASEA is of all the herbs and supplements and substances I've worked with in my 40 years research with this, ASEA is the absolutely number one in order to prevent retarded blood circulation. Yeah, because that's exactly what it does. It just goes straight into these obstructions and makes it flow. That's why athletes, people who exercise lots like me, I love ASEA because you just like it's the holy grail for exercise people because you keep it flowing. If you keep it flowing, you have an enhanced recovery phase. Yes. So with a recovery phase, if you work out and you're sore for 3 days, you don't work out for 3 days, you don't benefit your organs. We've got to work out every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Ideally every morning, every evening, twice a day. When you wake up and in the evening to switch off, twice a day. That's what all the happiest and healthiest people in China in their 80s and 90s, full of beans and full of life and full of joy, they all do their Tai Chi twice a day. Yeah, every morning, every evening. Stress the body in the morning, settle, get back into the body. Yeah, so all the time. But the recovery is obviously the key. And that's why we take lots of Chinese herbs, so we constantly recover. And that's where ASEA is, for people like me, it's a dream. Yeah, because I love working out very hard. And at my age, at 62, I work out harder than most guys in their 30s. And because I know how to recover. Yeah. If you know how to recover, you can work out hard. If you work out hard, you benefit your organs.
That's what the elite sports people, like the gold medal Olympians and stuff, that are the ambassadors for ASEA, they talk about that, being able to, it's not just being able to work out harder, but most importantly, it's about recovering faster. And what that allows them to do is do more training.
Yes.
Because they're talking about fractions of a second, right? When you're talking about swimming in an Olympic pool, it's like, the time is so little, but it's about just nailing that hard training regularly and just in training the brain and training the body. And so it's, the recovery is key. That's what they talk about.
We don't talk excessive hard. We're talking about working rigorous and vigorous. Yeah. If you stress the body, you will heal the body. That's how it is. If you don't stress your body, like with arthritis, like if you don't stress your body, arthritis gets worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
If you stress your body, you can keep arthritis at bay all your life.
Yeah.
So it's a key element. Harvard University has identified it. Monash University, all on board now with the Eastern way of living. If you don't stress your body, that shit will happen later in life. You suppress. Because with the exercise, you go into the acute development of symptoms and you are able to correct before it becomes big. That's the key. Yeah. So the key is exercise. Yeah. Exercise gives you strong bone. If the bones get strong, it's the brain marrow. It benefits the brain. Yeah. If you've got strong bones, the bone marrow is strong. You are able to face fear and to overcome fear. And if you have strong bones, you are able to store memory. That's what it is. If osteoporosis also is affiliated with memory loss and brain fog. Yeah. If the bone density goes down, so your thinking goes down. It's a direct connection between bone density and thinking. So brain fog and bone density. So we constantly have to stress the body. But in order to stress the body, we need to take the right foods. So we need to understand how to eat. So we need to take the right herbs. Yeah. Once we understand all that, it becomes a natural element of our life, and life gets better and better and better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've got like another very, very important formula to prevent dementia and brain fog is a major four major herb combination. I use it on a regular basis. Like people with brain fog, I give them four major herb, and within 2 days, they think clearly. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That's like a really, really powerful, like the Chinese herbal formula, in particular this one, the four major herb, has been developed over 1800 years. So it's 1,800 years development. Yeah. And for the formula to come, it just unbelievable how it's so. People who have drug experiences tell me, my God, if I take that formula, it feels like cocaine, that clarity of the brain, like cocaine. Just bang, it just moves through the brain. It settles the water, yeah. And so for pent-up phlegm, nothing beats the Hurlun and bamboo formula, yeah. And the bamboo formula is like, it just settles the water like all the way down. So it pushes through the clarity.
Yeah.
And for overall, for the overall function of all the kidneys, is obviously the well-being, which is the original Empress formula.
Yeah.
And the Empress formula was exclusively only designed for the Empress back in the days. We're talking like 1800 years ago, because the Empress needed to be healthy. And so they developed that formula, and now it's available as well-being. And it's got all the herbs in there, all the 6 major herbs that are really make sure your kidneys are functioning.
Yeah.
So what I take every day, obviously, ASEA. Every day I take ASEA. Every day I take well-being. Every day I take a major 4 combination and bamboo. I take this all the time.
You take bamboo every day?
Yeah, maybe sometimes 5 times a day, 5 times a week.
Okay.
Sometimes I observe it. But for many times I go every day, 1 scoop or maybe 2 scoops.
Yeah.
Just
clears that phlegm, yeah.
All the time. I can sense in the mornings where I am with my production, and then I regulate with my herbs. Herbs are like wine and alcohol and drugs. After a while, you know how to take it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
When you go to a party, you know exactly what to take at what time. You're not sculling down a bottle of vodka and wonder why you're a lunatic.
Yeah, you'll be in the garden in no time, yeah.
Yeah. This is the same thing with herbs, yeah. And so when it comes to preventing dementia, when it comes to not having brain fog, when it comes to having clear thinking and never losing the thread of the sentence, bamboo, number 1. 6 major herb or 4 major herb. Well-being, and obviously ASEA. ASEA for anything, yeah, all the time. Yeah, whatever you do. Yeah.
It's pretty special, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put some links in the chat box there for anyone that wants to learn a bit more about all of this. All of Jost's links are there, thelifestylemedicine.com, and really recommend his book, Clock on to Health. That's so good. Your 15-minute workout, that is there. That's a free download as well on that site. And you can buy those herbs and so forth from Jost's website as well, the Traditional Chinese Medicine Herbs. For the ASEA, get back to the person that invited you on the call. If you come through Jost, you're welcome to contact Nicole's put her email there, nicole@gojustandnicole.com on behalf of Jost. But also every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m., if you go to redoxtalks.com, we have a presentation about what Redox is and how it's helping people all over the world. It is a very special product. And then the amazingmolecules.net is another website you can go to and start to look at some of those studies. So all that information is there to support you. Super grateful. This has been a very interesting one, Jost. I'm thinking, wow, I don't understand why we don't have hundreds of acupuncturists on here just like refreshing and recapping on all this awesome nuggets of gold. I'm taking heaps of notes again today. So yeah, just absolutely amazing. Those points about, the kidney, you got to nourish the kidney, pent up phlegm and retarded blood circulation. Heaps of gold there today. Key things that I took away: face your fears, keep moving forward. Hugging the tree, Qigong is the most important health practice in TCM. I did not know that. That is amazing. Meditation, I put the tm.org link in the chat box as well for meditation. Love that. No devices after 8 p.m. Stretch your body every day and exercise, or else your spleen function is impaired. And too much sitting down causes reduced blood circulation around hips and core. And that's probably a big one for a lot of us that do work online. We've got to remember to use our stand-up desks more often. Fantastic, Jost. Thank you so much. And any words of wisdom before we call it a day? Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Very simple. Live the chi cycle and all will be fine.
Yeah. Absolutely. Don't worry. Be happy. Thanks, Josh. You're amazing. Stay well, everyone. We'll catch you next week with another interesting topic. And yeah, keep living the life. Be a positive influence in the world today. Bye for now. Thanks all.
Bye, bye.